Hey, love. Welcome to the Growth Blueprint. I'm Shay, your intentional growth guide. If you're here, it means you're ready to build your creator life with more peace, purpose, and a whole lot less pressure. Around here, we don't chase hustle, we build habits. We don't copy trends, we craft alignment. And we don't talk at each other, we walk with each other. Every episode will break down one layer of your growth, from mindset and systems to storytelling and sustainable strategy, all through the lens of authentic marketing. Because real growth is not about doing more, it's about becoming more you. So grab your coffee, your notes app, or that messy journal that's seen it all. And let's build your growth blueprint together, right here, right now, with intention. Now let's get into this week's episode. You ever notice how every new chapter looks so good on paper until you realize, well, you're the one who actually has to live it? Like the idea sounds divine, right? New season, new mindset, new routines. The Pinterest boards are pristine. They're flawless. And your soft rebrand caption is sitting in the drafts, just waiting for you to publish them. And you've got 3 planners waiting to save your life. But when the dust settles and you actually sit with it, that's when it hits you. Growth is gorgeous, but it's also work. Welcome back, my friend, to the Growth Blueprint. I'm your host, Shay, your favorite creator bestie, the one who's building, learning, and unlearning right alongside you. In last week's episode, building your next chapter was one of those heart-heavy but healing conversations. It was about stepping into who you're becoming, even when it's scary. About releasing what doesn't serve your peace anymore, and about finally admitting, yeah, I want something different now. That episode was about awakening. But this one right here, this one's about alignment. Because once you've made peace with where you're headed, the next step is understanding how to get there without losing yourself in the process. It's the in-between moment where you go, okay, now what? That space between the vision and the execution, that's where clarity lives. So welcome to episode number 9, the Creator Strategy Shift. Clarity over chaos. Now I want you to take a breath right now. No, really, right now. I want you to inhale and exhale. You made it here, and that's not small. You survived the burnout, the algorithm changes, the doubt, the startovers, and all the mental gymnastics it takes to keep creating with a heart in a world that is obsessed with numbers. And now you're here listening to a podcast called The Growth Blueprint because you're ready to do it differently this time. Not faster, not louder, just better. Now, this episode isn't about doing more. It's about doing what actually matters. And maybe, just maybe, clarity has been waiting for you to slow down long enough to hear yourself again. Because here's the truth. Most of us think clarity will come from another strategy, another planner, another video telling us the top 3 ways to grow in 2025. But real, genuine, authentic clarity, the kind that grounds you and guides you, comes from listening to what your brand, your creativity, and your peace have been trying to tell you all along. You're just too stubborn to hear it. Now, when I first started creating content, I thought clarity meant control. Like if I could just organize my thoughts long enough and plan my feed schedule long enough and schedule my uploads good enough, I'd finally feel clear. You're right. I wasn't clear. I was cluttered, right? Because that kind of clarity was really just perfectionism wearing productivity's hoodie. And if we're being honest, most creators live in that space. The one where everything looks put together on the outside, but inside, you're drowning in a gazillion mental tabs. You're editing reels while brainstorming blog ideas, while second guessing your voice, while watching three different creators go viral for something you've been saying for months. You know, chaos. The kind that makes you feel like you're always one step behind your own dream. But the thing is, chaos doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're ready for a shift. And that's what this episode is about. The shift. Not a rebrand, not a pivot, a shift. An internal one. The kind that happens when you stop asking, what should I post next? And you start asking, what do I actually want to build? Let's be real. Clarity doesn't arrive with fireworks. It's quiet. It's slow. It's that random Tuesday afternoon when you realize you don't need to prove your creativity by being everywhere all at once. Clarity whispers, hey, you don't have to do all that. Hey, that's not even your lane. And hey, you can rest and still be relevant. And that whisper, that's the start of your creator strategy shift. See, clarity isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing yourself well enough to stop performing and start aligning. That's what we're unpacking today. Because when you stop building from chaos, you start creating from peace. And that's when everything changes. So whether you're on your morning walk, sitting in your car before work, or editing content at midnight with snacks and survival mode energy, this episode is a reminder that clarity is the foundation of sustainability. And we must have it. Now, you don't need to do it all. You just need to know why you're doing what you're doing. And that's where we are going to start. Now, grab your notebook because this isn't just an episode. This is a recalibration. We're going to talk about where chaos comes from, how to spot it, and what it takes to untangle your strategy so you can breathe again. You ready? Let's get into it. You ever wake up and feel like your brain already started the day without you? Like before your feet even hit the floor, your mind is going through the 47 open tabs in your brain? Yeah, post a video, check the analytics, reply to DMs, update the link in the bio. Oh, and don't forget to show up on stories so the algorithm doesn't think you ghosted again. It's 8:04 a.m. and you've already lived a full day in your head. Welcome to the overload trap. This is the invisible treadmill of creator life, the one that keeps you busy enough to feel productive, but not grounded enough to keep you fulfilled, or even to make you feel fulfilled. Because here's the truth nobody likes to admit out loud. Most of us are not overwhelmed because we're lazy. We're overwhelmed because we're loyal to chaos. We confuse motion with meaning. We call exhaustion dedication. We call overthinking strategy. But what it really is just noise. Now, when I first started creating intentionally, I didn't even realize I was in the overload trap. And from time to time, I find myself in that moment again and again, right? And I thought that I was being productive. I thought Juggling 8 platforms, 2 schedules, and 15 must-do content tips meant I was serious about my brand. But let me tell you something. Burnout doesn't happen overnight. It sneaks up on you in quiet, almost invisible ways. It shows up when your quick scroll for inspiration turns into comparing your entire identity to someone's 15-second reel. It shows up when you're creating just to stay relevant and not because you actually feel inspired. It shows up when your creative joy starts feeling like a job you just can't quit. And then one day you realize you've been working hard, but you don't even know what direction you're running in anymore. And that's when chaos stops being a season and becomes your new normal. Let's break down what really happens when we're in the overload trap. You start the day with good intentions, you have a plan, right? But as soon as you open your phone, the noise hits, trends, updates, advice threads, and that one creator who somehow gained 20,000 followers overnight just by being consistent. So you start spiraling. You think, maybe I need to post more. Maybe I need to change my niche. Maybe I should try that format instead. And all of these were the same exact thoughts that I had. And suddenly, your strategy becomes a reaction instead of a roadmap. That's not clarity. That's chaos disguised as opportunity. The internet is full of shoulds, but should is a shapeshifter. It'll have you changing different directions every time someone else goes viral. And before you know it, you've built a brand around survival, not intention. Now let's talk about what that does to your energy. When you're overloaded, you don't just lose time, you lose presence. You're there, but you're not really there. You're filming the content but doubting it before it even gets recorded. You're answering emails but thinking about your analytics. You're resting, but your brain is still creating captions in your sleep. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's the chaos talking. And the worst part, chaos convinces you that slowing down means you're falling behind. But slowing down isn't quitting, it's reclaiming direction. Because let's be honest, if all your effort isn't leading you to peace, purpose, or progress, the 3 Ps, then what's it really for? Here's the emotional truth of the overload trap. We've been taught that doing it all is how you prove you deserve success. So you start chasing more platforms, more views, more opportunities, more validation. But more doesn't mean better. Sometimes more just means messy. And when everything matters, nothing truly does. Creators don't burn out because they're weak. They burn out because they've been told to care about everything at once. You can't build from that place, not sustainably. That's why clarity feels like such a breath of fresh air, because it cuts through all the noise and asks, what's actually mine? You hear that? Mine. What is mine to carry? So let's get personal for a second. Now, I want you to pause whatever you're doing. Yeah, even if you're folding laundry or editing on TikTok. I want you to take a second and I want you to ask yourself this question. When was the last time I created something just because it felt good and not because it fit a trend, an algorithm, or a schedule? If that question feels hard to answer, it's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because you've been surviving instead of actually creating. And that's okay. Now, awareness isn't failure, it's freedom. Because now you get to choose differently. When you start shifting out of overload, the first thing you'll notice is silence. The kind of silence that feels strange because you've gotten so used to the noise. You'll want to fill it with content ideas, plans, distractions. But if you can, sit in that stillness long enough, you'll start to hear something new. Yourself. That's clarity trying to speak to you. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it. You'll start realizing that every time you say yes to everything, you're saying no to your peace. You'll see that sometimes doing less isn't lazy, it's leadership. Because clarity and chaos can't coexist. One will always cancel out the other. So here's your first step out of the overload trap. Stop trying to do it all and start asking yourself what actually matters right now. What actually matters to me right now? Not in theory, not for someone else's strategy, but for you. Maybe it's posting once a week instead of 5 times. Maybe it's finally batch recording so you can breathe. Maybe it's admitting that one platform just doesn't bring you joy anymore. And sometimes even in those moments, it's hard for you to let go, but you must follow and stick through the plan. Why? Because that's clarity. And clarity, my friend, is your comeback. In the next section, we're going to talk about the myth of doing it all and why it's quietly robbing creators of peace, purpose, and results. Because if clarity begins with awareness, sustainability begins with release. You're not behind, you're just building different now. So take a sip of that coffee, stretch your shoulders, and let's keep on rolling. So let's talk about one of the biggest lies the online world ever sold us. That doing it all is how you make it. We wear busy like a badge of honor, as if being constantly in motion somehow makes us more worthy, more successful, more legit. But here's the thing. Ambition without alignment is just burnout in a cute outfit. It's giving, I'm booked, busy, and barely hanging on. And that's not the goal. You see, this whole doing it all mindset didn't just show up out of nowhere. It was born from a generation of creators who were told that consistency beats everything. That if you post every day, show up everywhere, and never stop grinding, you'll win. But here's the problem with that. No one told us what to do after we got tired. Nobody said, hey, if you're exhausted, that's not a sign of weakness. It's a signal that your strategy stopped serving you. Instead, what did we learn? We learned to push through, to keep showing up even when your creativity felt dry, to keep smiling through the burnout because the algorithm doesn't care. So we learned how to do everything except rest. We learned how to produce, but not how to pause. And now we're realizing doing it all doesn't actually get you ahead. It gets you adrift. Let's break this down real quick. There's a big difference between ambition and alignment, okay? Ambition says, I have to do everything because I don't want to miss out. And alignment says, I only do what makes sense for me right now. Ambition wants applause. Alignment wants peace. Ambition burns fast. Alignment builds long. And if you've been in this game long enough, you already know. Longevity lives in alignment, not overextension. Because when your ambition outpaces your alignment, you start chasing validation instead of purpose. So let me be real for a second. I used to think the more I did, the more successful I'd feel, right? If I was posting on every platform, editing late, managing 5 ideas at once, that meant I was serious. But you know what? All that was fear. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of missing a moment. Fear of not being enough if I wasn't constantly visible. We call it grind culture, but really it's insecurity culture. Because if we're honest, doing it all often means I don't trust that what I'm doing is enough. And that right there is the quiet thing that's been running the show for too long. Here's the truth. You can't build something peaceful from a place of panic. You can't be creative when your nervous system is in survival mode. You can't hear your intuition when your schedule is screaming louder. So if you've been feeling like you're constantly behind, maybe you're not behind. Maybe you're just misaligned. Ambition will have you chasing every new opportunity, every idea, every trend until your brand starts feeling like a reflection of everybody else but you. Alignment will have you moving slower but deeper, building roots instead of reach. And that's the shift this blueprint is all about. Let me paint you a picture real quick. Ambition looks like 5 content pillars, 7 platforms, and a spreadsheet of ideas that make your brain short circuit and your eye twitch. And alignment looks like one clear message you actually enjoy talking about and the freedom to show up when you mean it. Ambition says, I need to do what they're doing. Alignment says, I can make it work my way. Ambition says, I don't want to lose momentum. Alignment says, momentum that cost me my peace isn't progress. Because when you're aligned, you're not scared to pause. You trust that what's meant for you won't need you to perform for it. Now, don't get it twisted, honey, because ambition isn't bad. Ambition is beautiful. It's what drives you to dream bigger, to believe in more for yourself. But when ambition isn't paired with clarity, it becomes chaos in designer packaging. Ambition alone says, I'll do everything. Clarity says, I'll do what matters. And alignment says, I'll do it well and without losing myself. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, that's the formula. And once you see that difference, you can't go back to doing it all because now you understand what doing it all will cost you. So let's talk about what it looks like when ambition turns toxic. You start ignoring your intuition. You stop celebrating small wins because you're already chasing the next. You start measuring your worth by output instead of impact. And you start believing that rest is something you earn instead of something you need. Sound familiar? That's not motivation. That's survival mode dressed up as strategy. And if no one's told you this lately, I'm going to tell you. It's okay to stop. It's okay to pivot. It's okay to decide that your peace is the new definition of success. Please tell me you're hearing me, y'all. Because listen, nobody remembers the creator who did it all, but they do remember the creator who stayed authentic through it all. Now, here's the biggest myth I want to break today. You don't need to do everything to be effective. You just need to do the right things consistently. And the right things are always connected to clarity and not chaos. That's why this episode matters. Because if you don't define success, success will define you. And it'll do it by everyone else's standards. So here's what I want you to reflect on. What does doing it all look like in your world right now? What am I holding on to because I'm afraid to be still? And where am I confusing busyness with purpose? When you sit with those, you'll start to see the cracks. And those cracks are where your light gets back in. That's when the fog lifts. That's when the noise starts fading. And that's when you begin to build, not from pressure, but from peace. Because the creator strategy shift isn't about hustling harder. It's about creating smarter. It's not about giving more time. It's about giving more meaning to the time you already have. That's where clarity becomes your compass. That's where you stop chasing and start choosing. Next up, we're diving deeper into what clarity actually means, not just as a concept, but as a daily practice. We're going to redefine what it looks like to truly know what you're building, who you're serving, and why it matters. So your ambition finally has a direction that doesn't drain you. Remember, keep your notebook handy because section 4 is where we start building peace into your plan. So let's be real. Clarity has turned into a buzzword. Everybody online says it like it's a downloadable template. Find your clarity. Get clear on your goals. But nobody tells you what that actually means when your brain is fried, your energy is low, and you've got 3 half-finished ideas sitting in your drafts. So let's break it down because clarity isn't a one-time epiphany. It's a rhythm you build. Clarity is a conversation, not a command. You don't decide to be clear one morning. You develop it. Clarity comes from consistent reflection, asking, why am I doing this? Until the answer stops changing. At first, your why might sound surface level, like, I want more followers. I want to grow my income. Keep asking. Keep peeling the layers until you reach the version that hits your heart, not your ego. Because once your why starts speaking softly but firmly, that's when you found the root. And roots grow clarity. Now, here are the 3 layers of clarity. 1, creative clarity. What you want to say. It's your message, your story, your voice. It's that thread that ties every post, podcast, caption, and video together. And when you have clarity, you stop chasing aesthetics and start curating impact. 2, strategic clarity. What you want to build. It's the structure, your offers, your systems, your content rhythm. Strategic clarity helps you filter opportunities. Not every collab or trend aligns with your blueprint. And 3, emotional clarity. How you want to feel while doing it. Because you can have a clear brand and still be miserable if you ignore your emotional piece. Emotional clarity checks in with your body. Does this feel expansive or heavy? Do I feel seen or stretched thin? Would I still choose this path if nobody clapped for me? When all 3 align, you stop performing and you start embodying. Why clarity feels uncomfortable? Because it asks you to pause long enough to hear the truth. The truth ruins denial's little party. It tells you that some of your current habits, projects, or partnerships don't fit you anymore. And woo, that's a hard pill to swallow. But here's the twist. Clarity doesn't create confusion. It reveals it. The fog you feel isn't failure. It's feedback. The tension you feel when something's off. Now that's your intuition trying to send a memo your schedule keeps deleting. Listen to it. Lean into it. Even if it whispers at the worst time. Like at 2 a.m. when you're scrolling success stories, still hear it out in its entirety. Now, clarity isn't clean. It's courageous. It's messy conversations with yourself. It's choosing to say no, even when saying yes would make you look busy. It's being okay with pivoting, not because you failed, but because you evolved. Think about it like decluttering your digital space. You don't throw away everything. You curate what belongs. You keep what sparks purpose, release what drains it, and suddenly you can see the room again. That's what clarity does to your brand. Now practice the 3C check-in. You could do this every month or every Monday if you need it. So I want you to ask yourself, for creating, what do I actually want to make this week? For connecting, who do I want to reach and why? In converting, what's the outcome that feels meaningful, not just measurable? If your answers start sounding repetitive or forced, it's time to pause and get realigned, because clarity isn't about new answers. It's about honest ones. Now, when you get clear, your audience feels it. Your captions sound calmer. Your visuals look more cohesive. Your energy online becomes magnetic, not manic. People might not articulate it, but they feel when a creator is at peace with their direction. It's in your tone. It's in your pacing. It's in the way you stop apologizing for boundaries. That's the secret sauce. Not a trend, not a hack, not a new platform. Peace performs. And here's your reflection. I want you to think about these 3 things. 1, what do I need to release to make space for peace? Think about that for a moment. 2, what feels like obligation instead of alignment? And 3, what's one small action that will make my creator life lighter this week? Write them down, sit with them, let it simmer. Don't rush to fix, just notice. Clarity loves awareness more than action. And clarity isn't a finish line, it's a lifestyle. Every time you come back to yourself, you're practicing it. Every time you choose simplicity over noise, you're embodying it. Every time you remember why you started, you're reinforcing it. So the next time chaos comes knocking at the door, don't answer with panic. Answer with your presence. Because when you know who you are, the noise loses its power. Clarity without direction is just another pretty thought. At some point, you got to turn that I know what matters into I'm acting like it does. Because purpose without a plan still leads to panic. And you, my friend, are done building from panic. So here are the steps. Step 1, audit the noise. Before you add anything new, look at everything that already lives on your plate. Pull out a notebook or open that Notion page you swear you'll organize one day. And brain dump every single task, platform, habit, or commitment that's currently orbiting your brand. Now I want you to draw these 3 columns. Column 1 are the must-keeps. Column 2 are the maybes. These are what you'll test. And column 3, mess. Mess, mess, mess. This is the one you're going to release. Be brutal, but kind. If it doesn't serve your peace, purpose, or people, remember the 3 Ps. It belongs in the mess column. The goal isn't to do everything right. It's to stop doing what's wrong for this season. Step 2, the energy filter. Ask yourself, what actually gives me energy? A task might look strategic, but if you dread it every time, it's not sustainable. Mark every item on your list with a heart for life-giving, a meh face for neutral, or a skull face for draining. That visual alone will change how you schedule your week, because clarity shows up in how you steward your energy, not how you spend your hours. Step 3, define your big 3. Every season, you only get 3 true priorities. That's it. Not 8, not 12, but 3. 1. One growth goal, something that stretches you. 2. One maintenance goal, something that sustains you. And 3. One peace goal, something that grounds you. Here's an example. For your growth goal, launch your newsletter. For your maintenance goal, stay consistent with one platform. And for your peace, protect weekends from work. Those 3 become your compass. Everything else becomes optional. Step 4, design a peace plan. Your peace plan is a schedule that feels human. Here's a simple framework you can try. On Mondays, have creative planning and admin, no posting. On Tuesday, publish long-form content like a podcast or a blog. On Wednesday, rest or ideate, no pressure to produce. Thursday, connection day, engage, DM, comment, and nurture. Friday, creation or recording. And the weekend, meaning Saturday and Sunday, is meant for real life. Recharge, live, and gather stories for the next week. Notice how there's margin. That's intentional. Margin is where creativity breathes. Step 5, measure meaning, not metrics. Clarity changes how you track progress. Instead of, did I hit 10K views? Try, did I communicate clearly? Did I create something I'm proud of? Did I protect my energy? Those are metrics that actually matter long term. Because numbers tell you reach, but meaning tells you impact. Step 6, set micro wins. Big goals can overwhelm clarity, so shrink them. If your goal is start a YouTube channel, your micro wins might be create a banner and intro, script your first episode, or record a 30-second test clip. Each micro win builds momentum without chaos. That's how you turn intention into evidence. And step 7, revisit weekly. Your priorities are alive. They evolve as you do. So schedule a weekly 15-minute check-in. Check in to see what worked, what drained you, and what did you learn about yourself. Write it down, because clarity compounds when you track it. And here are your reflections. I want you to reflect on these 3 things. What 3 priorities truly define this season of my creator life? What can I release to create more focus? And where am I mistaking urgency for importance? Answering those honestly will realign your brand faster than any algorithm hack ever could. Finding your true priorities isn't about doing less for the sake of laziness. It's about doing less so you can live more. When you build from clarity, every yes feels lighter, every no feels confident, and every action feels like it belongs. You stop reacting to life and you start designing it. Here's the thing nobody tells you about intentional growth. Alignment isn't something you find once. It's something you maintain. You don't get aligned and stay that way forever, boo. Life shifts. Energy changes. Seasons evolve. And if your strategy doesn't grow with you, it grows against you. That's where the alignment audit comes in. It's your monthly or weekly, if you a little extra like me, habits of asking, is what I'm doing still connected to who I'm becoming? Because the creator you were last month is not the creator you are today. Your clarity changes, your goals shift, your capacity expands or contracts. And your strategy has to reflect that, or you end up back in chaos. So let's build your audit step by step. Step 1, the energetic check-in. Before you look at numbers, before you review content, before you evaluate your performance, pause and check in with yourself. I want you to ask yourself, how do I feel about creating right now? Do I feel connected or disconnected? Or does my strategy feel sustainable or suffocating? This matters because your emotions are often the first indicators of misalignment. Creators don't burn out because they're incapable. They burn out because they ignore themselves for far too long. Your energy tells the truth long before your analytics do. Step 2, the purpose pulse check. Now shift into intention mode. Answer these slowly. What did I set out to build this season? What impact do I want my content to have? And does my current approach support that vision or distract from it? This is where a lot of creators realize they're still using strategies that belong to an older version of themselves. If your strategy doesn't match your purpose anymore, it's not alignment, it's autopilot. Step 3, the platform alignment check. Now let's talk platforms. Not every digital street deserves your time, okay? So ask, which platforms feel aligned with my voice? Which one feels forced? Where am I seeing depth, not just numbers? If a platform drains you more than it serves you, that's a misalignment. If a platform fuels your creativity and connects you with your people, that's alignment. You don't need to be everywhere, but you need to be where you're meant to be. Step 4, the creativity audit. Now this one is my personal favorite because look at your recent content, like literally scroll through it and ask, does this feel like me? Was I rushing or resisting when I created this? Was this made from clarity or from comparison? Is this content deeply connected to my brand identity? Authenticity doesn't start in your captions, honey. It starts in your clarity. If your content doesn't feel aligned, your audience can feel that energetically. Step 5, the systems audit. Now check your structure. Systems either support your piece or sabotage it. Now journal this out. Which parts of my workflow feel heavy? Where am I constantly behind? What feels chaotic and needs simplifying? And what feels good and needs scaling? Now this is the part where most creators realize their system is the reason their strategy feels stressful. A good system should save energy, create consistency, reduce decision fatigue, and support your clarity. If it's doing the opposite, it's time for some adjustments. Step 6, the boundary scan. Alignment isn't just about what you're doing. It's about what you're protecting. So ask, where am I overextending? Where am I saying yes out of fear? And where do I need clear boundaries with my time or energy? You can't build intentionally while entertaining everything. Boundaries are the walls that keep your peace inside and the chaos out on the front porch. Step 7, the clarity reset. Now this is where we bring it home. Now write down these 3 things. 1, what I'm keeping. These are the things that you feel most aligned with. 2, what I'm adjusting. These are the things you're somewhat aligned with, but you can adjust. And 3, what I'm releasing. These are the things that are no longer aligned with you, no longer serving your purpose, and you can let them go. This resets your direction each month. It ensures your strategy evolves as you evolve. Again, Growth isn't about doing more. It's about doing what makes sense now. And here's your reflection. What did the last month teach me about myself? What part of my strategy needs more support? What am I pretending still works, even though it doesn't? And where am I being called to shift? Now, these questions are uncomfortable, but they bring you back to yourself. Alignment is not something you stumble into. It's something you choose every week, every month, every season. The more you audit your alignment, the less you get lost in the noise. And the more your brand grows from a place of truth and not trends. You start designing your creator life, not reacting to it. You stop doing what you should do and start doing what you're meant to do. Alignment isn't a moment. It's a lifestyle. Want to know what's wild? Somewhere along the way, peace got labeled as passive. Like if you're calm, you're not committed. If you're slow, you're not serious. If you're intentional, you're not ambitious. But here's the secret creators who last already know. Peace is a strategy, one of the most powerful ones you can have, because peace doesn't mean you're not working. It means you're not working against yourself. Peace is not the reward. It's the foundation. We grew up in the era where success was tied to struggle, where being exhausted was proof you were really doing something, where burnout was a badge of honor. But burnout is not a brand identity. And chaos is not a content plan. You do not have to sacrifice yourself to build something meaningful. In fact, the more peace you protect, the more potent your creativity becomes. Now let's talk about why. 1. Peace sharpens your creativity. So when your mind isn't running a mental marathon of comparisons, panic, and I should be doing more, something magical happens. You start actually hearing your ideas. Not everybody else's ideas, not the algorithm's ideas, not the trends, just yours. Peace makes your creativity louder because the noise finally gets quiet enough for your originality to breathe. When you create from calm, you create from clarity. And that's where your real magic lives. 2. Peace fuels sustainable consistency. Everybody talks about consistency, but you know what almost nobody talks about? The cost of the wrong kind of consistency. Hustle consistency burns fast and crashes hard. But peace consistency flows. It adapts. It flexes with your life instead of fighting it. When your strategy honors your energy, you stop dreading showing up because it feels like alignment and not obligation. Creators who protect their peace don't quit because they don't burn out trying to impress an algorithm. 3. Peace makes your presence magnetic. Here's a truth you probably already know deep down. Your audience can feel your energy. They can feel when you're desperate. They can feel when you're drained. They can feel when you're hiding behind hustle. But they can also feel when you're grounded, when you're clear, when you're confident, when you're comfortable in your own lane. There is nothing more magnetic than a creator who is at peace with their purpose. Not perfect, not polished, just present and aligned. People aren't drawn to your output. They're drawn to your presence. And peace keeps your essence intact. 4. Peace makes decision-making easier. When you're chaotic, every choice feels urgent. Every opportunity feels like pressure. Every idea feels like a distraction. But when you're calm, you can actually discern. You see what's for you and what's noise. Clarity plus peace equals a decision-making superpower. You don't chase, you choose. You don't rush, you refine. You don't compete, you create. 5. Peace strengthens your boundaries. Peace gives you the confidence to say, no, that doesn't align. No, that doesn't serve me. And no, that's not my lane. You stop performing for approval and start protecting your purpose. You stop explaining your boundaries and start embodying them. A calm creator is a clear creator. A clear creator is a confident creator. And a confident creator is unstoppable. Peace is a habit, not a coincidence. You don't just wake up one day in alignment. You reinforce it through small, daily choices. Choosing rest without guilt, choosing intentional uploads over rushed ones, choosing silence over comparison loops, choosing boundaries over burnout, choosing fulfillment over fast growth. Every tiny act of peace is a vote for your future creative self. If chaos is a cycle, then peace is a practice. Because chaos says, do more, show up more, don't slip. You're falling behind. Peace says, slow down. You're safe. You're allowed to evolve. And you're building something real. Now, which voice are you feeding? Here's what I want you to reflect on. Where does my creativity feel noisy right now? What's one area of my brand that feels chaotic and needs calming? And how can I invite more ease into my content this week? Let these questions guide your next steps, not from fear, but from intention. Peace isn't passive, it's powerful. It's not the opposite of growth, it's the engine of sustainable growth. Creators who thrive long-term don't sprint, they stride. They build from clarity, from calm, and from conviction. And that's exactly where you're headed, into a creator life that feels like home, not a hustle. Take a second. Just breathe with me for a moment. Because if you made it through this episode, I already know something in you shifted, even if it was small, even if it was subtle, even if it was just a whisper saying, yeah, I don't want chaos anymore. You're not the same creator you were at the beginning of this episode. You've seen yourself a little clearer. You've felt your capacity in a real way. You've let your mind settle long enough to admit, I don't want to build my dreams from panic or scarcity. I want to build them from peace. And that right there, that single thought is the beginning of your clarity era, your alignment era, your intentional era. The creator strategy shift has officially begun. Today wasn't about planning. It wasn't about optimizing. It wasn't about growth hacks or viral formulas. It was about grounding. It was about listening inward instead of outward. It was about finally telling the truth about what you want this creator life to feel like, not just look like. Because clarity is the quiet that leads you home. So here's the shift you made today. You identified your noise. You named your chaos. You peeled back your shoulds. You reclaimed your energy. You gave your creativity permission to breathe again. That's not small. That's not light. That's not something to do later. That's transformation. That's intentionality. That's alignment in motion. And it's going to change the way you show up. Not just today, but next month, next quarter, next season. Your audience is going to feel this shift. Your content is going to feel this shift. You are going to feel this shift. Because once a creator finds clarity, everything else starts reorganizing around that truth. Now, I want you to sit with these slowly, maybe in your journal, maybe in your notes app, or maybe in your voice memos. I want you to think about what clarity came up for me today that I've been avoiding. What can I release this week to support my peace? And where can I simply simplify my creator life right now? Not next month, but right now. And what does aligned action look like for me in this season? Don't rush your answers. Let them simmer. Let them reveal. Let them reveal. And remember, clarity isn't loud. It's gentle. It's inner truth rising to the surface. Now choose one thing, just one, to simplify, pause, or release this week. Not 10, not 5, one. One thing that frees up your energy. One thing that cuts through the noise. One thing that makes room for calm direction. This is your clarity practice. Because, bestie, once you have clarity, now it's time to build. What good is clarity if your systems don't support you? What good is peace if your process still drains you? What good is direction if your workflow is working against you? Now, the next episode is where everything shifts from internal to external, from mindset to method, from intention to infrastructure. Welcome to Part 2, the Creator Strategy Shift. Systems that sustain you. Designing a workflow that supports your peace. We'll be talking about systems that fit your energy, not steal it, routines that feel human, workflows that create consistency without chaos, and content rhythms that honor your life, not your burnout. It's the episode that turns clarity into capacity, strategy into stability, and vision into flow. So take this episode, sit with it, breathe with it, live with it. And when you're ready, we're building the structures that support the creator you're becoming. Thank you for listening to The Growth Blueprint, where we grow slow, steady, and soulfully, and where clarity is not a luxury, it's a lifestyle. If this episode spoke to you, share it with a creator who's been fighting chaos and craving calm. We're building an intentional community here together. And as always, grow intentionally, create peacefully, and remember, you don't need to do it all. You just need to do it with purpose. See you in the next episode.